Well, thank you, Ted. It's wonderful to be here today and have such a nice crowd. When you put a conference together like this, you always hope people show up and you beat the bushes, and so it's very good to see people come, and I particularly appreciate the staff and the preservation, Ted and his gang, for organizing us all. The conference theme is Great Faces, Great Places, History Makers in South Dakota. Is that me? Nope. Oh, there we go. Okay. The conference theme is Great Faces, Great Places, History Makers in South Dakota. Most people have little knowledge of the people that we'll be highlighting today and tomorrow, and so that's a problem that we'll be working to change that, and we're glad that our presenters are here to share the history of these people and the history that they made. Most of the history books in the museums are filled with people who might be considered great because of the job they had or the movements they led. But if they did great work, did those who lived alongside them know about it or know that they were great? How did they know they were great? As many of you are aware, the state's marketing slogan is Great Faces, Great Places. This, of course, refers to the presidents on Mount Rushmore, but has proven to be a lasting slogan because of its elasticity and its meaning. Nevertheless, it does accentuate the mountain which memorializes the four presidents. And presidents, kings, emperors, and so on take the lion's share of the historical ink, museum space, and broadcast bandwidth that informs the public's understanding of history. But speaking of greatness, one of the little-known stories about the creation of Mount Rushmore was the role that Calvin Coolidge played in getting Gutzon Borglum's vision off the ground. As the first president to visit the site, he agreed with Senator Peter Norbeck and got the funding secured in the federal government, and then traveled to the site and dedicated Washington's part of the memorial during the 1927 summer stay. There he delivered one of the more, not greatly known speeches. Coolidge is, far more known for his brevity of words than the words themselves. But curiously, Doane Robinson, the first state historian, said Coolidge was the ablest master of phrase living. And this is quite a statement, considering the era has Hemingway, Fitzgerald, and Will Rogers, just to name a few. But if you start searching through Coolidge quotes, you'll find Silent Cal does have some gems. One of them is fitting for this conference, and it is, quote, "It is a great advantage to the president and a major source of safety to the country for him to know that he is not a great man." So it is. I think what Coolidge is getting at there, that is there's some humility is a necessary component of leadership. The recent book on Coolidge may indicate that he was a great man, but get a sense, not like Napoleon might be thought that he was great, and definitely not with a capital G. Greatness. But instead, Coolidge is proving out to be a great man in the sense that he was an unusually fine human being. And it is a great advantage to a group of people and a major source of safety to the country for us to know that not all history is made by quote-unquote great men in the Napoleonic fashion, but much of it by those not greatly known, but who are nonetheless making great change happen. You can change the slide now. Thanks. And who are great people, interesting people, and worth knowing. Whether they're accomplished things that have made today better or worse, well, that's for you to judge and for you to ponder. And that's why we have these smaller things that are part of a larger historical investigation made in a time when there's interest in it and questions about the events in the life of these people that we can dive into and further investigate their lives. But of course, if the material isn't there, then we'll never know how great they were as human beings or how great they persevered to achieve their aim. That's why we have organizations such as the South Dakota State Historical Society, with buildings to house the source material for historical inquiry. The archives, the museum, the spaces for exhibits, the press to publish fine books and journals, archaeology to care and discover about our cultural sites, and the preservation team that's putting on this year's conference supports that maintenance of our historical buildings and architecture. So what I'd like to do now, then, is to bring you all up to date on the progress and the plans for the building that we're renovating at the Cultural Heritage Center. Okay. So, the bill that passed that brought about the appropriation for this renovation was really carved out to do four main things. The first is catch up on a lot of overdue maintenance that needs to be done to a building as unique as ours. Re-roof, shore up the building, update the operating efficiencies and so forth, and improve accessibility to sidewalks and parking lots that has had wear over the 33 years of the life of the building. The next thing we wanted to do is we're really looking for improving the experience of those who come to the building. Most of the folks think that of the Cultural Heritage Center and they think the museum, and that's true, and we're going to be doing things as well to that, but also the archives gets a steady stream of foot traffic to visit and do research, and so we wanted to upgrade the experience in the archives as well. So we're going to reconfigure the lobby, reconfigure the bookstore in the entryway, reconfigure the research spaces for the public, improve the lighting, make that more of a modern experience. We were running, when we'd have a full room of researchers, we'd be running electric cords and extension cords around, and we are going to upgrade the tables and the research spaces for each researcher. People bring an awful lot of electronics now when they do that. Cameras, some people bring scanners, their own scanners. We don't let them have a pencil, but they have a lot of other devices that all take electricity and plug-ins for that. So we're going to be upgrading that. We also we have a digitization program that takes place partially at the Cultural Heritage Center and partially at the Women's Prison. We're going to be relocating that digitization all into the building, and it'll be great to have that staff back. With some updated equipment as well. And then also we're working on the redesign of the museum that'll be greater interactivity for the visitors, and I'll go through some of the details on that. We'll also upgrade the office spaces. The carpet is the original carpet. I think it's 33-year-old carpet that should go in the museum. Well, maybe not. And the IT infrastructure for the staff as well as the lighting and so forth, we'll upgrade that. But the main reason that we're renovating the building is because we were running out of space for South Dakota's history. The archives consumes, we estimate, about 300 to 350 cubic feet each year, and we're out of space. Shelley warned me when I took over the job, we've got about 3.5 years left, and we're done. So with the fiscal situation in the state allowing for it and the unanimous support of the legislature, we got the appropriation passed. And this is a photograph of the governor signing the bill in late March of last year. So, next slide. So this is the rendering of the front of the building. You'll see there on that front, there's a new structure there. This is we're kind of informally referring to this as the lodge. This will be the new education space. Inside, if you go in the building now, the education room can seat about 50 if we're jam-packed in there, or I'm sorry, about 30 if we're jam-packed in there. This will be able to accommodate a crowd of about 80 people. So we can do book talks, we can have museum activities in there, kids tramping around doing things about history and so forth. We're very excited about this space. When we started talking to the architects, we noted you have to maintain the Arikara style of the lodge of the building. And so that lodge is meant to be a earthen structure, just like the Arikara and Mandan would have built back in about the time Lewis and Clark came through and so forth. That has a connection straight into the building. So if you go, and one thing too, we also want to, now this is a rendering. The outside picture is probably not going to look like the final product, but we wanted to create a space for handicap accessibility. When the building was designed in 1989, that was 2 years before the ADA passed, and so we have some work to do on making the interior of the building, the museum spaces, but also the approach accessible for more people. Okay. So I'm not sure how well you can see all the details here, but the details aren't too important. What I'd like to point out, though, it's a schematic of the building with the museum on your bottom right, and archives and museum storage of artifacts on the top left. And along that front, you'll see that arrow that says experience in there. That's the new lodge structure. And there's a hallway there going into the lobby. So when you come in the main door, you'll be greeted by a reception desk. The lobby is getting a facelift. The gift shop will be directly in front of you, where the foundation has some plaques and so forth. The bathrooms are pretty much remaining where they are, and that where the gift shop is now is turning into a mix of storage space for the building. But we wanted to give the gift shop more of a sense of, well, you can find it more quickly, easily, and the reception desk could be a built-in reception desk there. If you come in the main door and hook a U-turn to the left, you could go down the hall into the new education space. Also, where the circle is there, that's going to be the new digitization room, where a lot of the scanning and so forth, the documents and materials can be done, dedicated there. So we're bringing up the capacity from the women's prison that's down there and merging that with the foundation's folks that do scanning within the CHC at the moment. And it's got great convenience to the archives and to the artifact storage space. Currently, that building or that room is a conservation space, which has never really been used for that type of work. So it wound up being storage and so forth. So that will be converted over. And then in the top left-hand corner where you see storage, that's going to be an annex that will house the 350 cubic feet consumed every year. We estimate that with well-designed high-density shelving, that space could give the building another 20 to 30 years of life, which is solving the storage space problem. Probably the main activity if you drive by the summer and see will be heavy equipment on the roof. And you'll be wondering, what are they doing up there? They will be re-sodding the sod roof that's on the top. So they're going to check the structure starting next week. They will begin to check the structure of the physical roof to the building with some testing and so forth. And then the following week, weather permitting, they'll start removing the current sod. And by November 1st, weather permitting, they will have gone through 3 phases of resodding that roof and the structure in the back of the building, and then reseeding that with the grasses. Okay. So this is a bit of a close-up of the new storage space. Not too exciting, really, but we do think that with high-density shelving and so forth, this is going to be a wonderful space for split between the archives to the north or to the top of the photo and artifact storage for the museum, who's also nearing their running out of life with the space that they have now. With high-density shelving designed specifically for us and our artifacts and our archival collections will give us that extra 20 to 30 years of space for the building. Okay. So we're moving. These are the empty shelves in the archives. There's a lot of empty shelves in the archives now. The vendor, the contractor that's been moving us out, we are, despite a couple of snowstorms, about a day ahead of schedule where we thought we would be. The items are being moved to a location here in town. And if you go to the next space, I think this is Governor Guerrillas. That doesn't feel right. Does anybody know who is the... there's no archivist. No, they're busy. Oh, Sigurd Andersen. So this is a box of Sigurd Andersen's papers. Was the first to be find its way in the move to the new shelf where it will be for about 24 months during the construction. Next slide. The museum is also going to get a facelift. We're just at kind of the initial stages of thinking through how to upgrade the museum. The collection and so forth is fantastic. The consultants we've been working with up to this point are impressed with how how well, I think, and I'm paraphrasing here, but how well the collection we have tells the state's story. So unlike in the first round 25 years ago of fundraising, where much of it was going toward items, we're not necessarily raising, or the foundation won't be necessarily raising money for items. This will all be for exhibiting, construction, and display of the items we have. We also intend to keep a high density amount of items for the public to see. I think people are often aghast at how much we have in storage. Generally, most museums have about 2%, maybe 1% on exhibit compared to what they have in storage. We have a higher number than that, and we hope to keep that ratio relatively high so that you can come and witness and see the items and so forth and get a sense for what they are. This is a mild mock-up of the museum, gallery, and so forth. As we've talked through with the consultants and the museum staff and people from the foundation and so forth, what we really hope to achieve is that when a person comes, and no matter what their age, 9 or 90, that they come and they get confronted with, well, what is history? And that the exhibits elicit some curiosity about how they can understand history, how they can inquire about the past, and how they can take something away from it. To include whether that be a thumb drive that they walk away from, or they scan a QR code on an exhibit and they walk away with suggested books to read or podcasts to listen to or some deeper sources that take that experience of that visit with them as they leave the building. Okay. So, what's next? Well, the construction work, like I said, the McGuff construction will take over the site next week and begin some of the preliminary stuff and work on the roof. We have a groundbreaking on the 2nd of May at 1:30. We hope you all can come and witness that kind of ceremonial event for a groundbreaking on the 2nd of May at 1:30. The archives and the artifacts will continue to be moved excuse me, until they're all moved out. But we think that the museum pieces will be out of the building by the end of May. And then the sod roof, as I said a few minutes ago, will be replaced across the top, starting over the museum first, and then ending up at the other end of the building during the course of the summer and fall. Then in the late summer, we'll begin the interior work and all of the things that upgrade the tile, the flooring, the lighting. I forget the number now. How many doors are in the building? We had to order how many doors? 77, I think. Yeah, this extraneous facts that you learn about a building when you go through the detailed number. At one point, David and I were picking out doorknobs. I never thought about the doorknobs. But that's when you renovate, these are the kind of details that you get into. 77 doors, and all of that installation will be done. Rewiring, upgraded HVAC will be installed over the next couple of years in the building. As for the staff, well, we keep doing what we're doing. Myself, the foundation, the press, preservation, and I think I'm missing somebody. No, have all moved to the Becker-Hansen building. So we're in Cubyville, down in the basement of the Becker-Hansen building. The museum staff and the archives are out at the Northridge Shopping Center, and continue our present-day activities, which will, starting this summer, in a far more intentional and realistic sense, will also include supporting K-12 instruction. So with the Teachers Summit that's going to happen in June of this year and in June of next year, the Historical Society, press, museum, archives, and so forth are building the backbone of a new South Dakota history website. The current SD for History, which is used to support the teaching of South Dakota history to fourth graders, and gets about 25,000 hits a month during the school year, so it gets a lot of traffic. It's a very busy website. We think this new website, now that South Dakota history will be taught from K through 12, so all the way up to high schoolers will be getting more and more South Dakota history kind of embedded in their American history and civics courses, that the website will support that. And that'll be free and open to the teachers, and the public can check it out too. So that should go live. Its first iteration will be live this June. Okay, next slide. Just a reminder, as Ted mentioned, I do the podcast every other week. Every other Monday, a new new episode comes out. We also monthly have the virtual history talks, and the next one, we hope you'll check in and join us for that, is the latest book, Bighorn Visions. And that's May 11th at 7 p.m. Those are generally the second Thursday of each month. And just a little preview of next year. Go ahead. So the conference theme for next year is, can you believe it'll be 25 years since Y2K? So the Archives is running the conference next year, and we're going to talk about digitization and digital history and the panic that not everyone, but many people were beset by, panic and hype, about the Y2K and the rollover of 1999. So I've even asked Shelley to throw in a little Prince music. We'll see what happens, but we hope you put this on put this in your plans for next April for Y2K. Okay, and with that, I think I will hand it back over to Ted, if Ted's here.